The Sturmtiger, officially known as the 38-centimeter Sturmtiger, was one of the most unusual armored vehicles produced by Nazi Germany during World War II. Built on the chassis of the famous Tiger I heavy tank, it was designed not to fight enemy tanks, but to destroy heavily fortified positions, bunkers, buildings, and defensive strongpoints. Its development was inspired by the brutal urban fighting on the Eastern Front, where German forces encountered fortified buildings that were extremely difficult to destroy with conventional weapons. The idea was to create a heavily armored vehicle capable of accompanying infantry and delivering an enormous explosive charge directly against enemy defenses. The result was a massive assault mortar, combining the protection of the Tiger I with one of the largest caliber weapons ever mounted on a German armored vehicle. The Sturmtiger was approximately 6.28 meters long, 3.57 meters wide, and 2.85 meters high, with a combat weight of around 65 tons. Its frontal armor reached approximately 150 mm, while the sides were protected by around 80 mm of armor. It retained the Tiger I's Maybach HL 230P 45 V12 gasoline engine, producing approximately 700 horsepower. The vehicle could theoretically reach about 40 kilometers per h on roads, although its enormous weight, high fuel consumption, and mechanical complexity greatly limited its practical mobility. The crew consisted of 5 men: commander, driver, radio operator, and 2 loaders. The defining feature of the Sturmtiger was its enormous 380 mm RW61L5 4 rocket mortar. Based on a naval weapon originally developed for anti-submarine warfare, it fired huge rocket-assisted projectiles approximately 1.5 meters long and weighing about 345 kilograms. The standard high-explosive projectile contained roughly 125 kilograms of explosive and was capable of producing devastating effects against buildings and fortified positions. Depending on ammunition and conditions, the weapon could reach a range of several kilometers, generally around 4,500 to 5,600 meters. Unlike a conventional artillery shell, the projectile used a rocket motor to accelerate during flight. Handling such enormous ammunition was a major challenge. The Sturmtiger carried only about 14 rounds, and each projectile was so heavy that a small crane mounted on the vehicle was needed to lift it into loading position. This resulted in a very slow rate of fire, but each successful shot had enormous destructive potential. A 7.92 mm MG-34 machine gun mounted in the front provided limited protection against enemy infantry. Only 18 Sturmtigers were completed, making them extremely rare. Their first major combat use came during the Warsaw Uprising in 1944, when German forces employed them against Polish resistance positions. The urban environment was ideal for the weapon's intended purpose, as its massive rockets could destroy fortified buildings and defensive positions with tremendous explosive force. The Sturmtiger was subsequently deployed on the Western Front, including during the German Ardennes offensive in December 1944. Vehicles operated by the 1001st and 1002nd Sturm companies were used against fortified positions, buildings, roadblocks, and other important targets. However, the tiny number of vehicles meant that they could never have a decisive influence on the campaign. As the German offensive failed, surviving Sturmtigers increasingly performed defensive missions as Allied forces advanced into Germany. Their enormous firepower remained dangerous, but mechanical failures, fuel shortages, limited ammunition, and difficulties transporting such heavy vehicles reduced their effectiveness. During the final months of the war, surviving vehicles were used in defensive fighting inside Germany, including operations around the Ruhr region. Several were eventually abandoned or destroyed by their crews as German resistance collapsed. The Sturmtiger demonstrated the strengths and weaknesses of Germany's late-war approach to armored warfare. Its enormous 380 mm rocket gave it extraordinary destructive power, while its thick armor offered considerable protection to the crew. However, the vehicle was extremely heavy, expensive, mechanically demanding, difficult to transport, and slow to reload. Its weight also placed enormous stress on the Tiger chassis, making breakdowns and recovery serious problems. Most importantly, Producing only 18 examples meant that even a successful mission could have little strategic impact. The Sturmtiger was therefore not a conventional tank, but a specialized mobile siege weapon designed for a very specific battlefield role. Its combination of Tiger armor, a gigantic 380 rocket mortar, massive ammunition, and a loading crane created one of the most bizarre fighting vehicles of World War II. Although it saw combat in Warsaw, during the Ardennes offensive, and in the final defensive battles in Germany, it was never produced in sufficient numbers to influence the outcome of the war. Nevertheless, the Sturmtiger remains one of the most fascinating examples of German armored engineering, representing an extraordinary attempt to put overwhelming firepower on a mobile and heavily protected platform.